Namaste, Jai Hind and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narasimhan. Now, reports suggest that India proposes to reduce import taxes on some electric vehicles from the United Kingdom in a free trade deal between the two nations by the end of the year. Now, these reports suggest that Bharat is considering a concessional tariff of 30% on 2,500 electric vehicles imported annually from the UK, priced above $80,000 now. There is also an addition in this report that this is an attempt to boost domestic manufacturing. The government is actually considering import duty cuts on fully built cars if a company commits to manufacture it in Bharat. Meanwhile, Sweden's Saab has now bagged the nation's first 100% FDI in defense project to make shoulder-fired rockets, and that too in Haryana. It is said that the FDI proposal, valued at under 500 crore, was cleared in October. Bharat currently allows up to 74% FDI in the defense sector under the automatic route. European aircraft, Airbus has signed contracts with India-based suppliers for manufacturing of aircraft components. Contracts have been signed with Aegis, Dynamatic, Gardner and Mahindra Aerospace for the supply of airframe and wing parts across Airbus A320neo, A330neo and the A350. And ISRO's maiden solar mission, Aditya L1, has captured its first high-energy X-ray glimpse of solar flares during its first observation period beginning the 29th of October. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, it's time to set up debate number one on the right stand tonight. And it comes from Tamil Nadu, where it's now become an ideological battle between Ram Bhakts and rationalists, between those who are pro-Sanatan Dharma and those who are anti-Sanatan Dharma.
தமிழகத்திலே பாரதிய ஜனதா கட்சியினுடைய ஆட்சி வரும் பொழுது முதல் வேளை அந்த கம்பரத்தை அப்புறப்படுத்தி நம்முடைய ஆழ்வார்களிலிருந்து நாயன்மார்களிலிருந்து அவர்களுடைய சிலை எங்கே வைக்கப்படும்?
Annamalai says that Periyar statues will be removed. He is insulting the people of Tamil Nadu. The only thing is that what is in his mindset is that he is going to come to power. He wants to become the chief minister. But with just 4 seats, when they were riding on the back of ADMK, they could get only 4 seats. If they are going alone, they will get 0 seats. And Annamalai can never become even a councillor in Tamil Nadu.
When Chief Minister M.K. Stalin's son, Udayanidhi Stalin, stoked controversy with his remark on Sanatan Dharma and the need to eradicate it, it also sparked a debate not just in Tamil Nadu politics but across the nation. Even today, while addressing a rally in poll-bound Madhya Pradesh, Prime Minister Narendra Modi accused the INDI bloc of disrespecting Sanatan Dharma. And as the debate continues, Tamil Nadu BJP Chief Annamalai has made a significant declaration during his Yen Man Yen Makkal Yatra, and that too in Srirangam, the home of the deity Ranganatha Swami. Annamalai, unveiling BJP's plan, promised to remove anti-God ideas and also statues of anti-Sanatan ideologues from in front or across in Hindu temples in the state of Tamil Nadu if the BJP comes to power. This statement was seen as a direct reference to the 12 feet high statue of Dravidar Kazhagam founder E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar, also known as Periyar, that stands right outside the Ranganatha Swami temple in Srirangam. So what were the promises that Annamalai made? And perhaps this is a big step, transition from not just Vikas, but also underlining his own Vishwas. That is important, ladies and gentlemen. If the BJP assumes power in Tamil Nadu, it would be the last day for the Hindu Religious and Charitable Endowments Department. He said that. He's also said will remove statues that promote anti-God ideas near temples across the state. Pledge 3 is will uproot flag masts near temples with plaques proclaiming there is no God. Pledge 4 will install the statues of saints, seers, Tamil scholars like Thiruvalluvar and of course freedom fighters and heroes will install statues of prominent historical figures who contributed to the freedom movement. So these are Annamalai's commitments, ladies and gentlemen. It has also sparked a massive debate, not just in Tamil Nadu, but across the country. But right now, we'll focus on the Tamil Nadu ideological battle. Ram Bhaks versus rationalists is one way to call it. The other way to look at it is that those who are pro-Sanatan Dharma and those who are anti-Sanatan.
Hello, Moto.
Joining us this evening, Suman Raman, political analyst, with us Ajit Khanna, academician, Sandeep Balkrishna, author, and also someone who dives deep into Bharat's history. He also has been running the Dharma Dispatch for a long time now, and many of our viewers would be familiar with his work and contribution. Ajit Khanna is an academic and who's a professor himself. Ajit Khanna, Suman Raman, and Sandeep Balakrishna, Namaste and Jai Hind. We are also waiting for Ramaswamy Mayappan to join us in just a bit. But first up, Sandeep Balakrishna, how important is this statement that Annamalai has made? Do you see this his first time that he is openly coming out and also underlining his own Sanatan roots? Because so far it's all been about development, connecting with people through this Padayatra, which is the N18L. And as he completes 100 assembly constituencies, he's also underlined his deep-rooted Sanatan beliefs. Your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you, Anand. Good to be here. Just to address your point about the latter point, about Annamalai coming out so vocally, in support of, proclaiming his Sanatana roots in Sanatana Dharma. Perhaps there is, this something to say for it, in the sense that, ever since his campaigning and his political career, or rather political entry, after his political entry, he has always been vocal about his Hindu roots. Maybe not, so aggressively as he has done this time,
right,
about Periyar and breaking his idols and things like that. Maybe not so vocally, not so aggressively, but he has never shied away, and in fact he has worn his Hindu-ness, his Hindu rootedness on his sleeve in all his yatras, in several public meetings. What we shouldn't forget is that there is also an Annamalai apart from his political rallies and speeches. This is to understand this, what seems to be like a phenomenon which he has unleashed in BJP Tamil Nadu, is you will find that in his interviews, where he has been really candid about his rootedness in Hindu Dharma, and the kind of damage that the so-called Dravidian ideology has inflicted on several generations of people in Tamil Nadu. He has been quite candid about it. But this mode of expression, specifically focusing on Ramaswamy Nayakar, that's a new thing. Plus, he's also been, Annamalai, if you've seen his one very long interview, I don't know where he gave it, but he's very clear, in which he says, Brahmins are new pariahs in Tamil Nadu. He compares them, and he compares their plight with the Jews of, with the plight of the Jews historically, who were hunted down, exodus of Jews, the kind of tortures that they had to endure for about 2,300 years. So it's made that comparison. This is nothing new actually.
No, but in this case, he never said that he was going to break the statues. He said that he will remove the statues of those who didn't believe in God, or who used slippers and who used to vilify deities and idol worship in the garb of rationalism, saying what are they doing right in front of an institution like the Ranganatha Swami temple. The other thing is flagpoles right outside temple to say there is no God. He said, I'll remove all of this. And So, but is that also trying to pitch an alternative ideology beyond what has been branded so far as Dravidian, politics? That's the bigger aspect, Sandeep Balakrishna. See, it's not that he has been shy of his Hindu roots in the past. It's just that now he's openly calling out those who have made it their politics and their job to bash Hindus and Hinduism under the garb of Brahmanism, Sanatan Dharma, however it manifests. From the 50s onwards, this has happened since the time of E.V. Ramaswamy Naicker. He's the one who championed it.
Yeah, not just from 50s actually. I'll come to that later, but just to address your main point, the whole thing about installing Ramaswamy Naikkar's busts right in front of temples or beside temples. You see this thing in Kanchipuram also. It's right opposite the Kamakshi temple or around the corner in that. If you go there, you see that. So this is par for the course. But coming specifically to Srirangam, which is where he spoke. And on your point about Annamalai emerging with an alternative ideology, I would frame it in a different way.
Sure.
What Annamalai is trying to do is to reclaim the Hindu civilizational heritage, which was, Tamil Nadu for the longest time. What is today known as the state of Tamil Nadu after the linguistic reorganization happened. Earlier, we had a very fluid kind of cultural and linguistic interchange throughout India. But anyway, that will go. Yeah. We'll have to go deeper into history. But just to give it in a capsule format.
Right.
He is trying to reclaim the original Hindu civilization and cultural heritage of Tamil Nadu. And Srirangam was a good choice in a way. I mean, I might sound cynical.
Right.
These times, Srirangam is one of the greatest, was one of the greatest victims of the Islamic invasions. Remember what Malik Kafur did it. One Devadasi, just to save the Ranganatha Swami Murti within the temple, one Devadasi, sacrificed her life. She literally became human fodder for one of the generals of Malik Kafur. And she fell down from the gopuram of the temple.
So great sacrifices. Yeah.
Extraordinary sacrifices
has been made, and that should not be forgotten.
Definitely not.
If there has to be a statue, it should be perhaps hers outside.
Absolutely, doubtless. So this is what you're talking about. This is not about politics or political ideology, Anand. This is about preserving and safeguarding, somehow
the Hindu ethos of Tamil Nadu.
Hindu ethos, the vitals of Hindu ethos.
Okay.
Why did they do all these people, those temple dancers? Why did so many thousands of people die?
Correct.
So, I mean, you kind of supplant it and twist these historical truths in the garb of rationalism and alleged supposed rationalism, which looks and spots holes only in Sanatana Dharma.
Point.
So this is an alternative ideology, Anand. What Annamalai is trying is a cultural reclamation.
It's a cultural reclamation is how you'd like to put it, not as an alternative ideology. Point well taken and well made. Let's see what our other guests have to say. I'm going to open this up. Sandeep Balakrishna, please stay on with us. Ajit Khanna, where do you stand before we bring in Sumanthi Raman? And I think Ramaswamy Mayappan should also be joining us now in any moment now. Yes, Ajit Khanna.
Yeah, fine. There is no doubt about it. There is an open ideological battle between anti, whatever you call it, or pro, whatever you call it. Now it is Sanatana Dharma. Earlier it was something else. Later it can be something else also, right? So anyway, there is no second thought about this battle. Let us have the battle. It's good for democracy. But what is happening is, don't distort history. When you say Periyar, removing Periyar statue, by removing Periyar statue from Ranganatha temple, in front of Ranganatha temple, right? You consider temple as a sacred, those who follow Periyar, they consider Periyar as sacred. Period. You have a statue there, you have a statue here, you keep a statue for the woman who died for the cause of Srirangam temple. Absolutely fine. Have as many statues as you can. There will be more statues than human beings in this country. Right? So you have that. But what is happening here is, if you think by removing these statues and bringing new statues, you are bringing the statue culture back to this politics. Where is it going to end? The end is, I don't see any end here. This is going to proliferate statue politics. And Tamil Nadu is no exception. Tamil Nadu, in fact, I am not, though I am from Tamil Nadu, I don't encourage this kind of statue or this, what you call, photograph everywhere. That is really getting on my nerves. But having said that, if you go all out to do this, wait for the reaction from DK or DMK and other outfits. They will bring as many statues as they can. So I think, what is his name? Annamalai, stop this kind of statue politics. Rather bring some reforms, bring some centers where you really sensitize people about your Sanatana Dharma.
Quite rich coming from somebody who's watched E.V. Ramaswamy Nayakar downwards till the recent leaders to erecting their own statues everywhere all across Tamil Nadu. What point to the person who abused deities, who says deities did exist, who says that everything about Sanatana Dharma is hogwash, took idols of Ram, Muruga, Sita and all other deities and hit them with chappals and abuse them and defame them.
Wrong.
No, that person's,
don't give wrong information.
That person's statue should be outside the Ranganatha Swami temple.
Don't give wrong information.
Suman Siraman.
I'm quitting this.
Suman Siraman.
Wrong information.
No, what wrong information am I giving? What wrong information are you talking about?
Bluffing to
bluffing?
the whole nation.
Who's bluffing?
Don't give wrong information. Nobody hit the bloody thing.
You
We
don't
have
need-
done it.
you
People
don't need to
have
shout.
done it.
You
And
don't
they
need to
put the
shout.
bloody blame on Periyar.
No,
What the
you
hell
don't
are
need
you
to.
saying?
No,
I'm
you
here
don't need to
fight
shout.
with
You don't need to
Bloody,
shout
you
on.
shut up now.
No, you don't need to
shut your
shout.
mouth.
No, you don't shout, Mr. You don't shout, Mr.
Don't
Ajit
talk
Khanna.
nonsense about
You
Periyar.
don't shout, Mr. Ajit
You
Khanna.
don't shout at me.
You are the one who's shouting, sir. I am not the one who's shouting.
That's why I came today.
You are the one.
That's
You
why I
are
came
the.
today
You
to
are the
expose
one.
you.
You are
To
the one who's
expose
shouting
all
at me,
these
sir. You are the one who's shouting. You are the one. You are the one. You are the one. You are the one who's. You are shouting is not going to change anything, Mr. Ajit Khanna.
Anybody will be slippers.
Your shouting is not going to change anything. Your shouting is not going to change anything.
Don't give wrong information.
You can keep shouting.
You are giving wrong
Eventually, I'll mute
information.
you, sir.
And Sandeep Balakrishna
Eventually, I'll mute you. Eventually, I'll mute you, sir. Eventually, I'll mute you, sir. If you can't show civility and decorum, you are only exposing what many claim Periyarites stand for. What E.V. Ramaswamy Nayakar and his followers stand for, you are only proving that theory by your behavior. By your behavior, Mr. Mr. Ajit Khanna, this is how you are, this is what you are proving. Alright, Suman Siraman, please mute him, sir. He can keep ranting like a banshee, let him do that. But the fact is, he stands proven against those who believe. Those who believe E.V. Ramaswamy Nayakar and his lot stand for this kind of a lot, he is proving himself, he is proving them right. Yes, Mr. Suman Siraman.
Anand, there are 2 or 3 quick points that I want to make. First of all, it is a very hypothetical statement that Mr. Annamalai has made because the BJP is very far from capturing power in Tamil Nadu. But anyway, the fact that he has made this statement is significant because ideologically, the BJP has decided to take on all the holy cows of the Dravidian movement. And starting with Mr. E.V. Ramaswamy, who is one of the sort of ideologues of the Dravidian movement. Now, if you look at it very carefully, and this is not known to many people, towards the final part of her term as Chief Minister, Ms. Jayalalitha and the AIADMK, I won't use the word had started distancing themselves but they were not as enthusiastic about Mr. A.V. Ramasamy as they were earlier. In fact, I remember on one or two occasions, even garlanding of the statue on his birthday was not done by the then Chief Minister. So I think what has happened is gradually there is a realization in Tamil Nadu that, maybe this Dravidian, spin that has been associated with whatever has been put before the people over the last 50, 60 years, some of it does not stand up to scrutiny. And increasingly, people in Tamil Nadu are starting to see through that. Like, for instance, Mr. E.V. Ramasamy's very strong view was about atheism. There is no God, there is no God, there is no God at all. This is what Mr. Annamalai was referring to. The creator of God is a fool, the worshipper of God is a barbarian, etc., etc. That is the plaque which stands in front of many of the major temples. So not just Srirangam, as Sandeep said, it's also in front of the Shankara Mutt in Kanchipuram. So they have strategically placed it there deliberately. So the point really is that by saying it can be removed, this is not about talking merely about removal of a statue or removal of the words which today have no meaning in Tamil Nadu. Almost overwhelming majority of them are worshippers. So there is no question whether they are Hindus, Muslims, Christians, whatever, Sikhs, they are all worshippers. They are all believers. So that philosophy or the ideology has failed miserably. So it is in a way, I would see, a statement saying that legacy of this person will potentially be erased because it is not the true legacy which has been propagated to the people of not just Tamil Nadu but across India. Because, for instance, there is a speech of him virtually calling for a genocide and so on. So a whole lot of things have not been put before the people for them to make up his mind. It's a highly sanitized version which has been put forward, and the image of quote unquote Periyar has been created, and that is the image that has been taught in textbooks for the last 50 years. So kids grew up reading that. In fact, all of us also grew up reading that. It's only when you go into the details you figure out about the whole how the entire the myth was created. So I think that while it is welcome that Mr. Annamalai has made this statement, I think there is still quite some distance for the BJP to go to reach a stage where they could potentially be in a position.
Whether they get there or not is important for everybody to understand, because this is a long drawn dream. Is this a pipe dream, Ramaswamy Mayappan, or is this something that he's come out and very clearly underlined? And said that no, I'm presenting an alternative and I'm taking a position that no leader in Tamil Nadu so far has taken.
Anand, I don't even think what Annamalai is providing is an alternative. I think what he's stating is very constitutional. What all Periyarists and Periyar followers have done is that they've said that rights only belong to them, and the ones in front of them do not have any rights, and the duties are only of those in front of them and they have no duties. Very simple. The issue of these statues and the statements made inscribed on those statues clearly are something that infringe on my right. I have a right to worship. I go to the temple. I need peaceful worship. They could have very well placed the same statue elsewhere. The same teachings could have been inscribed elsewhere. They could have been done all that. But the intention was to infringe upon my right, and that is what is first stepped upon me. So that constitutional requirement, which has not been questioned for such a long time by the elected politicians in the state, has been questioned by Annamalai for the first time and brought that out seriously. One. And two, by Mr. Khanna before me was talking about statue culture. And Annamalai clearly was not talking about raising up statues for all present day politicians. He was talking about people like the Marudu Sagodaragal, the Marudu brothers, who brought out the first declaration against the British, who formed an alliance. So it is about those people who have inspired us to this free land today, who have inspired us to a free country, who have inspired us to various policies. It is those people that he wants to place in front of the people so that youth get inspired by looking at their statues, and not to political philosophies, and not to caste philosophies, not to communal philosophies, not to oppressionist philosophies. He's talking about people who inspire a free country, who inspire a democratic country, who talk about equality to everyone. So when Annamalai and I should actually point out to you, Annamalai gave an interview to you on his 94th day of the Padayatra.
Yeah.
And very specifically on the 94th day, he said, I do not like the statue culture that is there in Tamil Nadu. Doesn't matter which political party is being in office, but they've always brought up statues of people that they believe in as their political leaders. And the very same people today that the DMK would like to call their political leader distance themselves. The same statement was made by him in your interview as well. And today the DMK has forgotten that how they left E.V. Ramaswamy Nayakar and came out and formed a party, and how he distanced themselves when they were all agitating and said, அந்த 4 பசங்க சுட்டா பரவாயில்ல, அதனால இன்னைக்கு எதுவும் மாறல அப்படி. So he basically went on to state that what had happened then, if the shots had been fired earlier, these things would have transpired better. So he was talking about the same DMK people, and he did not even want to name them as people or his own men. So those are the people they want to take grassroots support of today, just because they can claim political success mileage out of this. So all that we have to see today is Annamalai is very categorical and clear. He is not about any religion or anyone. It's only the right of people will have to be protected. People should worship freely, and these statues should not infringe upon those who want to freely go there and worship. And statues should be there to inspire people to a free, inspired, casteless society, and not someone who talks about separation, discrimination and oppression. So even when Periyar talks about, he does not talk about who in Tamil Nadu we call Tadkapattavar and Palangudina. We talk about the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. Let us look at Periyar's statements. They are not about protecting these oppressed class who did not have the opportunity earlier. So if Periyar were to protect their interests, he should have talked about them first. And today DMK should have taken those instructions and said, this is what we look at protecting. Today the Dalit and Adi Dravidas and Adivasis are not the ones that they are looking at protecting. The other communities who were not necessarily in the same category, who were not necessarily economically, let us say, not progressive, they were the ones who were given opportunity by Periyar. So let us not take into these ideas. If we start leaning line by line, reading line by line and thread back, I think the entire teaching of Periyar would go away. And today we will have to look at even removing from textbooks. That would be the reality today. But such a separationist leader, today we don't mind talking about him, because there are a few economic reforms, social reforms that he's talked about. Those might not touch them with everyone.
Correct
But
me if
let
I'm
us
wrong.
get into
If my history may be bad, and please correct me, I'm subject to correction, Sandeep Balkrishna. Is this not the same E.V. Ramaswamy Nayakar who tried to ally with Muhammad Ali Jinnah and said that we will have a separate Tamilistan? Is this not how is that person hailed, and how is he not the same person who targeted specifically Hindu deities and gods and took their idols and took rallies out, and they said that here, this is what I am doing to this deity and this idol, where is it? Let this person punish me. Did he say anything about any of the Abrahamic faiths? Did he take any position there? A person who does not believe in God, should his statue be outside the temple, which is perhaps even the Kuladeva of Rama at the time of Ram? This is Ranganatha Swami. That's how the story goes. A 2,500-year-old temple, if not more.
Yeah, I mean, see, it all comes. Let me address the point about Jinnah, then we'll get into more details. So they were kind of quasi allies, if I can use that term, and in a sense, Ramaswamy Nayakar looked up to Jinnah for his whatever aggressive stances to get Pakistan, and when he actually got Pakistan, he thought they were fellow travelers, traveling in the same boat. You want a Pakistan, I want a Dravidistan, a separate country where only pure Tamils and Dravidians live. Okay? So they had this kind of a on and off relationship. And when Jinnah, finally attained his macabre dream of splitting India and got Pakistan, Ramaswamy Nayakar wrote plaintive letters saying that, look, you have betrayed me, you have let me down, take me with you. These are all documented. They say that it is best to go to the primary source. This guy is still around. One of the last one of the last leaders, I don't want to use the word, okay, one of the last Dravidian ideologues in that mold in that Ramaswamy Nayakar mode. His name is K. Veeramani. He has written a biography of Ramaswamy Nayakar in English. Everything is written down there in black and white. So, I mean, there are literally hundreds of examples I can draw from the book, but I'll just give you a couple of examples. So, this great rationalist, Ramaswamy Nayakar, when he turned 60, he was weighed against silver, tulabharam. So you sit on one end of the scale, the person sits on the other end, there is gold or precious metal or silver or whatever. So this great rationalist who was railing against so-called superstitions in Sanatana Dharma got a tulabharam done for him. Didn't refuse, that is the point.
So, see, there are contradictions, but what did you do to try and further your own goal? You stood for something where you are against. You took a position which was against Hindu faith, against Hindu deities, against, and at different points in time, it also became anti-Brahminism, Brahminical, etc., etc. His comments about what should be done with the 4% Brahmin population was repeated recently by a DMK leader who is named after a former Prime Minister. No action was taken, no 153 was slapped against him. All of these patterns are there. But today, for the first time, perhaps after 100 days of his Padayatra, covering about 100 assembly constituencies, Annamalai has come out and made a very clear statement that this is what I stand for. We'll free Hindu temples, we'll do away with the HRNC department and the HRNC Act in the state of Tamil Nadu. We will come back and restore the pride in going to temples and believing in Sanatan faith. So all of these aspects, he said it. Does this mean that he has pitched and given an alternative option? Many would look at it as a return to the Hindu ethos, reclaiming Tamil Nadu's Hindu ethos. Others would say it's an ideological option. We leave it at that. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We've just got more news coming through. I have to go across to that, gentlemen. To our viewers, big news coming in. Caretaker Prime Minister of Pakistan, Anwarul Haq, in a press conference has openly told the Taliban government in Afghanistan to choose between Pakistan and the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan. He has said 2,000 Pakistanis have lost their lives due to terror activities. Anwarul Haq has also said that infiltration from Afghanistan is increasing multifold. He said that after the Taliban government came into power, Pakistan has witnessed a 60% increase in terrorism-related incidents on the border shared with Afghanistan on that side. On the western side, he's also highlighted suicide attacks related to incidents have seen 500% increase in Pakistan, and these suicide attacks of 15 Afghan nationals have been identified so far. Caretaker Prime Minister has asserted that Pakistan has provided all information related to terrorism to the Afghan government, but there is no action on their part. Meanwhile, there's a sharp reaction that's come in. Top Afghan sources revealing to News 18 that claims made by Pakistan are absolutely wrong, misplaced. Pakistan is responsible for all the terror activities in the region. The Afghan government and the Taliban have also highlighted that they promised the world that they will not allow Afghan soil to be used by anyone, and they will not. The Afghan source very clearly also adding that this is Pakistan's pressure tactics to try and get a solution on the Durand line, to get the Afghan government, the Taliban, to agree to this Durand line. They want control over the Durand line and want negotiations. That's the bigger charge made by the Afghan government, saying that the recent decision to even repatriate Afghan refugees in Pakistan who settled there even for decades is clearly to force Afghanistan to once again come again and agree on the Durand line, which ceased to exist, and that treaty lapsed sometime in the 90s, ladies and gentlemen. And the Afghans believe that that entire region, Pakhtun region of Pakhtunistan as they claim, belongs to the Afghans, to the Pashtun. We're going to take a very, very short break. Stay with us. When we come back, we turn the spotlight towards what's happening in the Israel-Hamas conflict, day 32, occupation of Gaza, the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, right in the middle of things, in the middle of Gaza city. That's what they are claiming. Is there a buffer zone push? And is that possible? Stay with us.
Hello, Moto. This morning, the chairman of the DPCC actually came over here and opened the locks of the gates over here. And at this point in time, the technical committee and the maintenance committee are inside the smog tower. They are actually figuring out that if at all this smog tower that has been shut for the last 8 months needs any sort of maintenance, any sort of technical the glitch that might have come up, and once these glitches are solved, the maintenance is done, we can expect these smog towers to actually go ahead and start function. So these are few of the steps that are being taken by the Delhi government after the court orders to give immediate relief, to provide some sort of immediate relief to the people of the national capital who have continuously been suffering due to this deteriorating air quality out here. Now over the next few hours, it is expected that once the maintenance is done, once the technical glitches are smoothened, we can expect that these smog towers would start to function. But yes, how much significant is it going to be in improving the air quality, especially out here in the Connaught Place area? That is still a big question mark, and that will be answered once these smog towers start functioning, and we can expect that the AQI might be reduced by a significant margin as well. With video journalist and Satish Essential Singh for CNN News 18. For the 6th straight day, the AQI in the national capital continues to remain in the severe category. Today as well, the AQI in the national capital and the nearby regions is above the 400 mark, which means that the air that we are breathing in continues to remain toxic. Currently, I am reporting from the iconic Akshardham temple, and if I could show you in the visuals over here, the entire area over here has been engulfed with smog and toxic haze. This is the toxic smog that we are forced to breathe day in and day out, and you can see in the visuals over here how this thick layer of smog has engulfed the entirety of the national capital today as well. The situation has remained in the severe category for the last 6 days, and IMD predicts that over the next few days as well, the AQI is likely to remain in the severe category itself. So yes, there is no sudden relief that will be seen by the people of the national capital who are now running from pillar to post just to get a grasp of fresh air. But a silver lining happened yesterday where the Supreme Court finally came on record and came down in fact heavily on the states, especially in North India, and asked them to chalk out a plan which would eventually mean that this menace of pollution that the people of Delhi and North India have to face year in and year out, a concrete plan is made out so that a solution can be found to this menace. But yes, at this point in time, politics continues over it. But yes, people of Delhi are still scared as this AQI and the air that we are forced to breathe in continues to remain toxic. Until when it will remain toxic, that is still a very, very big question mark. And at this point in time, what also remains to be seen, if at all our governments after the Supreme Court came down heavily on them, can finally get their acts together, sit on a table and chalk out a concrete plan because of which we can do away with this menace of pollution that the people of the national capital have to face year in and year out.
We had in-depth discussions about the steps that we are taking to address urgent needs on the ground. We all agreed that humanitarian pauses would advance key objectives: to protect Palestinian civilians, to increase the sustained flow of humanitarian assistance, to allow our citizens and foreign nationals to exit, and to facilitate the release of hostages.
אנחנו נמצאים, כוחות צה"ל, בלב העיר עזה. הם הגיעו מצפון ומדרום. הם הסתערו בתיאום מוחלט בין כוחות היבשה לכוחות האוויר והים. לא תהיה הפוגה הומניטרית בלי החזרת חטופים. הלחצים עלינו ילכו ויגברו. אני יודע שאנחנו נידרש להחלטות מנהיגותיות, החלטות קשות. עבורי אי אפשר לעצור את הלחימה הזאת עד אשר מגיעים להישגים שלה. במלחמה שנכפתה עלינו אין הליכה לאחור, אין עצירה, יש רק הליכה קדימה, עד לניצחון על החמאס ועד השבת החטופים.
No ceasefire without the release of our hostages.
It's the 33rd day of the Israel-Hamas conflict. Israeli troops have initiated an operation targeting the Hamas tunnels within Gaza City after they claim that they are in the heart of Gaza City. Now, as per reports, the IDF has stated that many of Hamas's tunnels, command centers and rocket launchers have been situated in close proximity to schools, hospitals and humanitarian institutions in northern Gaza. Meanwhile, there's massive call for humanitarian pause to the ongoing war, and as the debate over occupation of Gaza intensifies, is Israel's buffer zone push possible now? We talk about that over the next 15 minutes. First, let's tell you about the human impact of this entire 33-day fight so far. Palestinians killed in Gaza are more than 10,000 plus as per estimates. Palestinians injured in Gaza are more than 26,000 plus. The Gaza population has been displaced, about 70% of the population. Israelis killed is more than 1,400. Hostages taken by the Hamas is around 240 yet. But Israel's ground offensive has also somewhere divided opinions. Israel on the one hand is very firm that IDF forces are in the heart of Gaza City. Meanwhile, the US has cautioned that Israel's reoccupation of Gaza is not right. But somewhere Israel has said that they have no intent of occupying Gaza. Their intent is to totally demolish and destroy the Hamas infrastructure and the Hamas leadership, the terror leadership. Israel is firm that IDF is tightening the noose around Gaza City and especially in northern Gaza. The US has cautioned, eliminate Hamas, but Palestinian statehood is required, is needed. The two-state solution is something that even the US is advocating very strongly. Israel is firm that Gaza is the biggest terrorist base built ever. US has warned women, children are bearing the brunt of war. Israel, in the meantime, is saying we will control Gaza security after the war. Violations of international humanitarian law will not be allowed or tolerated. Naveen Sanduka, Palestine activist, is with us. Ray Locker, senior journalist and author, with us. And Anat Bernstein-Reich, President, Israel-Asia Chair, Israel-India, Sri Lanka Chambers of Commerce and CEO of BDO, Israel-India Investment, also with us. Namaste, good evening. Thank you very, very much for your time, to the ladies and the gentlemen. Ray Locker, let me first ask you, where do you stand on this? On the one hand, there is this aspect of the two-state solution and that Palestine state deserves recognition, a message being sent across to the Israelis. On the other hand, Israel saying we will not stop till we demolish the Hamas infrastructure altogether.
Well, a two-state solution has been something the United States has been saying it has wanted for decades now, and sometimes Israel says it wants that too. Obviously, that's not really happening right now. I think, the U.S. government is in a tough position trying to balance its support, traditional support for Israel, which has lasted 77 years, or at least that long, and dealing with what's obviously a humanitarian disaster on the ground in Gaza. I think you can see from Secretary of State Blinken's comments that he's trying to do that, and same with President Biden. Right now, it does not seem to be satisfying many people on either side.
But the proof is also compelling, Naveen Sanduka. The fact that IDF has put out videos with rocket launcher bases inside mosques, in schools, Hamas tunnels coming right outside hospitals and their basements. How much of an argument or merit in the fact that Hamas itself is not allowing Gazan civilians to move to the south?
Well, thank you for hosting me and being the Palestinian voice here. And basically, let me say this. What we're witnessing right now is not only a target on Hamas. What we're witnessing is a collective punishment on the Palestinian people after the 7th of October, the atrocities on the 7th of October. So just to give you a proof of that, more than 135 Palestinians were killed by settlers and the IDF in the West Bank. Today we saw videos in East Jerusalem of male soldiers harassing young women. young school girls going to school. This collective punishment. It's not, and there is no Hamas in Jerusalem. There's no Hamas in the West Bank doing any kind of operations. And we've also seen families moving from the north to the south, and they were directly hit by IDF rockets. Whole families were killed. We also saw bombardment around hospitals and targeting specifically ambulances. I mean, even if there one person who is Hamas in those around the hospital or in this ambulance, are we risking the killing of civilians, specifically women and children, for the sake of getting one person? Not only that, Israel is known to have one of the highest intelligence around the globe. Plus, it can do targeted killing. So if they know that this person is a Hamas activist, they can definitely target them with minimum human life loss. What we are witnessing is collective punishment. And there's no protection of civilians whatsoever, and no respect for the international humanitarian law at this moment. Plus, why are we putting a whole population in Gaza under siege? There's no water, there's no food, people are starving, people are going to the sea to drink from polluted water in the sea. I mean, this is collective punishment. How are we going to get rid of Hamas if the people are not eating or drinking?
But the Hamas are not letting the civilians aside. There are compelling videos that show that aid that is supposed to go to hospitals is being rerouted by the Hamas. Conversations where fuel, water and all have been rerouted. How is it that civilians who are advised to leave to the south of Gaza have not been able to go through? These are questions that remain. But I'm going to ask Ms. Anat to defend this charge, where you say that Palestinian people are being collectively punished. That's a serious charge, Ms. Anat, where very clearly Ms. Naveen is saying that for the 7th of October, along with the Hamas, the Palestinian people are also being collectively punished. How would you answer or respond to that?
So, I respond that, of course, we are not motivated by revenge. I totally don't agree that this is a punishment. The 7th October, of course, it's a massacre, but Israel ground invasion and now taking over the Hamas infrastructure is not about revenge. It's not about punishment. We definitely don't want to hurt any civilians. And the Israeli IDF has the highest moral the world, I would say. And you're right, we have the ability for a direct hit. IDF talking to the civilian population, asking them to move, and you saw now that IDF is protecting the convoy of civilians moving to the south with the intention not to hurt anyone, not women, not men, not children, only the Hamas. When everyone is talking about free Palestine, yes, we are doing free Palestine from Hamas. And when we talk to the Palestinians, they say it clearly, help us get rid of Hamas, because Hamas doesn't want us to move to the south and protect ourselves. Hamas is shooting at us when we are trying to move to the south. Hamas, even Khaled Mashal in an interview in the past few days said clearly, it's okay for me to kill the civilians in order to look at the big picture and liberate Palestine. So Palestine should go to Hamas and complain to Hamas. Israel is doing the best it can to protect the Palestinians. We want to live in peace, with peace in Palestinians, and we need to take Hamas from this equation. They're not good for us. They're not good for the Palestinians.
Right. Ray Locker, quick, 1 minute, ma'am. Ray Locker, quick comment. Is there a possibility of looking at a solution where the Palestinian people get their state, the Hamas terror infrastructure is destroyed, and Israel stays out of Gaza?
Yeah, there's a possibility of that. It's going to take a long time on the parts of negotiators on all sides, including the United States. I mean, first of all, this operation in Gaza needs to end. It needs to end with some kind of solution that's deemed acceptable to the Israelis. They need to stop pushing on people in the West Bank and stop, building more settlements there. That's an antagonistic act that I think angers the people who live there, who are not supporters of Hamas. So you have to quit attacking those Palestinians on the West Bank, and the Israeli government needs to do everything it can to stop that. Meanwhile, the Palestinians in Gaza have to cooperate with people from all sides in rooting out Hamas and not doing anything to support them. They got to be gone.
Yeah.
That's going to take a long time to do, but theoretically it's possible.
Got it. To the ladies and the gentlemen, I have to cut away from this conversation closer home, because we've got big news coming through, and this is with respect to a parliamentarian who's been under serious scrutiny by the ethics panel, and in the Cash for Queries case, we are given to understand sources telling CNN News 18, a mega CNN News 18 exclusive, that the recommendation of the committee could be, the suggestion could be expulsion of Ms. Mahua Moitra from the 17th Lok Sabha. Payal Mehta joins us with details. Payal, you've got this news for us, breaking here on the right stand on CNN News 18. Go ahead, please.
Anand, the committee report has been circulated to all the members just a short while ago. We've managed to get an exclusive detail of that report, and that report essentially says that report will be adopted tomorrow in that meeting that will happen. And the report essentially says that there is enough evidence, on the part of Mahua Moitra to have actually shared a login ID and password with businessman Darshan Hiranandani. And going by the evidences and going by what has appeared before the committee has recommended that Mahua Moitra should be expelled as a member of parliament. Remember, this recommendation will be further sent to the Lok Sabha Speaker for his approval. And after this, when the government, brings in the winter session of Parliament, on the first day of the winter session of Parliament, there will be a motion which will be moved by the government to expel Mahua Moitra as a member of Parliament. That's number one. Secondly, there is also action which is pending against Danish Ali. Remember, Danish Ali has been using derogatory terms to address the chairman and other members of Parliament. That is something which has also been documented in that report. And essentially, on the basis of that, the call will be taken on the Speaker. From what I understand from the parliamentary rules, either the Speaker can ask for Danish Ali to be expelled for the entire next winter session of Parliament, or probably lesser punishment. The onus will be on the Speaker, but the big breaking news is that trouble is going to be there for Mahua Moitra, and even so more, because the committee says that as far as the other issues are concerned and other impropriety charges against her are concerned, the committee will recommend that the government should have a strong and in-depth legal inquiry into the matter.
Right. Earlier in the day, we had Nishikant Dubey saying that his request to the Lokpal, and the Lokpal has recommended a CBI investigation, and that's been admitted. But in this case, do we have access, Payal, through our sources? What are the key points or the recommendations that have been made, or key observations that have been made?
Like I said, Anand, and we broke this earlier, on your show itself, that every word that has been said by either party or even those people who appeared as witnesses, all of this has gone on record, and that's formed part of the committee. I mean, one could not have even gone through the committee report. It's an exhaustive 500-page committee. But the moral of the story in this matter is that, yes, they have found Mahua guilty of having shared a login ID and password, which is something which is not as per the parliamentary conduct, and that's the reason the ethics committee has stepped in. So Mahua Moitra will be expelled as a member of parliament. That's the recommendation that they will make. After which, of course, like I said, the Speaker has to give his final approval, because it was on the Speaker's recommendation that this committee was asked to examine the entire matter. We've seen 2 meetings really take place. We saw the first meeting with Darshan Hiranandani, Jay Anand and Nishikant Dubey both appeared before the panel. They given their evidences. They spoke about what mattered and why they actually had made this complaint. And after which, you saw in the last session, it was rather...
Well, has the panel found her behavior unethical? Have they found it, do they find merit in it being called a criminal conduct, or even breach of perhaps the code of parliamentary procedure and parliamentary parlance behavior? Is she in contempt of the House?
On the basis of the fact that she had given her login ID, she had given her login ID and password to somebody who was not authorized, as that person accessed the detail from overseas. We've also known that, probably the IT ministry had also submitted a detailed report through NIC about how many logins really happened, from where. So all of these details were there for everybody to really see, failing which Mahua was not able to really justify in a way, because she stormed out of that last meeting, did not even answer the questions that were asked by the panel, including, who paid for her overseas travel, how many times did she communicate with Darshan Hiranandani through the entire period of the last 4 years, and even after the complaint was really made. So there were no answers that Mahua was able to give. So that was completely unethical, because this is part of parliamentary proceedings. And we've been reporting, Anand, that when you are a member of parliament, you log in to your ID and password, but you also have a OTP which comes to your number, and that is only to be used by you or your staff. It's not supposed to be given to somebody who's an outsider, and in this case it's a businessman who's been given access to it. Mahua has of course given out her own reasons, but the panel did not find any merit in this. Remember, this report is going to be adopted tomorrow, is what I'm given to understand, and probably that's the reason all the MPs have been asked to be present there, so that the recommendations are very, very clear as far as the other conducts are concerned. Because remember, Nishant Dubey and Jay Anand have also said that Mahua had made financial impropriety, but that is not for the panel to really examine, because the panel is not a body which can actually examine criminal complaints or complaints of financial impropriety. And that's one of the reasons the panel in its wisdom has asked for a deeper inquiry and an in-depth inquiry by some sort of mechanism by the government of India.
Now, is this recommendation that we have accessed via sources, Payal, do we know, have you been able to understand whether it's unanimous or is it by majority within the panel?
A very interesting question that you asked me, Anand, and I must thank you for asking me this, that this report is going to be adopted tomorrow. They'll go through this entire report. But one has to remember that out of the 15 members in the committee, about 8 to 9 are BJP and NDA MPs. In fact, Mr. Godse, who is a member of the Shiv Sena from the Shinde faction, is also part of the committee. There is Mr. Balashori, who hasn't come for the last 2 meetings. He is also part of the panel. He's from the YSR Congress. We are given to understand that a lot of members of parliament from the opposition camp will be giving in their dissent notes. But when the committee clears the report, it is adopted either by voice vote or unanimously. Even if it's by voice vote, the BJP has the adequate numbers in that panel, and should there be a tie that really happens, then the chairman is allowed to cast 2 votes as well. So that's where the technicality really stands. And what I'm also given to understand, and I must tell our viewers this thing very, very clearly, that we are given to understand by way of sources that out of the 5 or 6 opposition MPs, 1 MP of the Congress party might not even come tomorrow, might not even give the dissent note, is what we are given to understand from our sources.
So they may abstain, and by that way the entire quorum also comes down. Now, will some of the other opposition MPs also do the same? It will be interesting that the panel will go to vote and this resolution and the recommendation will be adopted by the ethics panel sometime on Thursday. Payal Mehta with that exclusive that's breaking here on the Right Stand on CNN News 18. We're going to call it a wrap on that note. Stay with us, ladies and gentlemen. Short break followed by Brass Tacks with Zaka Jacob.
The people of Delhi are continuously facing this health hazard that has come up because of the rising pollution levels out here in the national capital. Yesterday, the Supreme Court finally took cognizance of this entire situation. After the hearing that happened in the Supreme Court ordered the Delhi government and Delhi Pollution Control Committee to go ahead and open these smoke towers that have been closed for the last 8 months. The main accusation was that this does not affect the air quality out here, and that was the reason why this was closed, because remember, this entire smoke tower was built at a cost of rupees 22 crores and it took almost rupees 10 lakh per month to maintain this smoke tower. But since the air quality in the national capital has deteriorated to such a level that over the past 6 days the people of the national capital are being forced to in fact breathe in severe air category AQI, and hence this order was given to go ahead and open this. This morning the chairman of the DPCC actually came over here and opened the locks of the gates over here, and at this point in time the technical committee and the maintenance committee are inside the smoke tower. They are actually figuring out that if at all this smoke tower that has been shut for the last 8 months needs any sort of maintenance, any sort of technical the glitch that might have come up, and once these glitches are solved, the maintenance is done, we can expect these smog towers to actually go ahead and start function. So these are few of the steps that are being taken by the Delhi government after the court orders to give immediate relief, to provide some sort of immediate relief to the people of the national capital who have continuously been suffering due to this deteriorating air quality out here. Now over the next few hours, it is expected that once the maintenance is done, once the technical glitches are smoothened, we can expect that these smog towers would start to function. But yes, how much significant is it going to be in improving the air quality, especially out here in the Connaught Place area? That is still a big question mark, and that will be answered once these smog towers start functioning, and we can expect that the AQI might be reduced by a significant margin as well. With video journalist N. Satish Essential Singh for CNN News 18. For the sixth straight day, the AQI in the national capital continues to remain in the severe category. Today as well, the AQI in the national capital and the nearby regions is above the 400 mark, which means that the air that we are breathing in continues to remain toxic. Currently, I am reporting from the iconic Akshardham temple, and if I could show you in the visuals over here, the entire area over here has been engulfed with smog and toxic haze. This is the toxic smog that we are forced to breathe day in and day out, and you can see in the visuals over here how this thick layer of smog has engulfed the entirety of the national capital today as well. The situation has remained in the severe category for the last 6 days, and IMD predicts that over the next few days as well, the AQI is likely to remain in the severe category itself. So yes, there is no sudden relief that will be seen by the people of the national capital who are now running from pillar to post just to get a grasp of fresh air. But a silver lining.
Good evening, welcome to Brass Tacks. I'm Zakir Jacob. We're starting off with a piece of big breaking news that's coming through right now. CNN News 18 has accessed details of the ethics panel investigation. The report will be submitted to the Speaker tomorrow. The recommendation of the ethics panel into the Mahua Moitra probe has been accessed by CNN News 18. And what we are given to understand is that the committee, the ethics panel, has recommended that she be expelled as a member of parliament from the 17th Lok Sabha. They have also recommended a time-bound investigation by the government of India, by an agency they so choose,